Welcome to We Play Full Out with Bart and Sonny Miller. Take it away, Sonny.
Oh, I'm taking it away today.
Let's
Bart.
go. Do you want me to start it off since we got an amazing guest today?
I love that.
All right, so welcome to We Play Full Out, and we're going to start the podcast off a little different than we normally start the podcast off today because we have a special guest. And before we start and introduce this special guest, I was wondering, would you like to give us a word of prayer?
I would actually love to. Let's do it. All right. Dear Lord, we thank you for this time together as brothers and sisters in Christ, Lord. We just thank you for everybody listening, Lord, that this sharing of knowledge can help people, Lord, help motivate them, help push them, help inspire them, help them to live the perfect reflection of themselves, Lord, and allow them to go out and be lights in their communities. Lord, I want to thank you for Sonny and Bart and allowing me to be here. In Jesus Christ's name, I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for doing that. Now,
Yeah.
a lot of you may wonder, why in the world would we start the podcast out that way? Now, the reason I started out that way is because every time I've known Tyson, we've prayed over our food. And every time I've known Tyson, we have literally prayed over the animals and everything around because it's in a very, very important part of his life. And I believe a critical, important part of how he became a world champion calf roper. Now, Tyson, do you want to expand upon that just a little tiny bit?
Well, I think, I think it boils down to something I learned a very long time ago. If your dreams don't require faith in God, they're not big enough.
Okay.
And what I mean about that is, as I was coming up as a young man, my dream was to be a national finals qualifier, a world champion.
Mm-hmm.
And most people don't know this about me, but when my mom was pregnant with me, we were in a barn on a dirt floor with no running water, no heat. Tin was the insulation on the side of the barn. And so it was very hard for me to dream big, much like probably a lot of the people listening or watching this now. You know, we come from humble beginnings. People have said things about us and they've cast their vision onto our life. And when I was young, I had big dreams and I couldn't see myself being a world champion coming from that really, really humble beginnings. And as I got bigger and as I got better, little bit by little bit, you just popped in my head one time and say, you know, if this doesn't scare you and you don't need me, this is God talking to me, then it's not big enough.
I love it.
And I think that, you know, when you tap into that other power, it allows you to dream bigger, it allows you to achieve bigger, and it allows you to get rid of some of the negativity that's holding you back.
Love that so much. And you know, one of the big things for us as we play full out is that's your version of what we play full out means to you, right? So if you believe in God or you don't believe in God, that's totally up to you. But we all run our life the way we see our life being ran. So I wanted to start that way and have Tyson introduce himself that way because Tyson is what I believe the epitome of we play full out is.
Yes.
So, Sonny, why don't you start off and ask your very first question.
I get to ask the first question.
Ladies first round
Let's
here,
go.
you know what I'm
Let's
talking about?
go. Well, as Bart just mentioned, our podcast is all about playing full out. So we were going to
Okay.
dive into that because you're also
Okay.
a family man and an entrepreneur as well as a world champion rodeo athlete. So first question is, and I loved your first story because the first question is that you've achieved rodeo championship success. What originally fueled you to pursue this path, especially from the humble beginnings you came from? Like, what made you want to do it? And what has kept you playing full out year after year?
Well,
And
interesting.
before you go, could I also add to that as you're explaining this, how is a rodeo athlete, as you explain this, an actual entrepreneur?
Well, unlike our politicians, we have to balance the checkbook in the rodeo world. We don't have a never-ending checkbook that's called the taxpayer, right? So, you know, as an entrepreneur, you got to make money, you know, and what better thing in the world to do than to chase your passion and make money while you're doing it? Like that, to me, is like the greatest thing on planet Earth. And so for me at a young age, you know, my dad was a trainer. And so the only way I could compare it is like Floyd Mayweather's father. Now, Floyd grew up, he was in the gym in the morning. He grew up watching other boxers fight. He grew up watching his dad fight. And he was just immersed in it. That was my life. We didn't have a lot because the sport that I was in, you could be the best in the world, best on planet Earth, and still be broke. When I was coming up, So I was just like, I love this. I'm in it. I'm immersed in it. There's not a lot of financial reward in it, but I want to be like the guys that my dad's training with. I want to be like the guys that I saw on TV. And I begin to believe in what if. What if I could go do that? What would my life look like? And, I can honestly say that I gave 110% at it. And the crazy thing was, I got better at making money along the way, but I was not naturally talented. I was not gifted. Okay, I tried basketball. Guess how much time I got to play in my basketball career in 2 years? 7 seconds.
Wow.
7 seconds. I never made starting football. Matter of fact, I got cut. Was never good in any sport. But guess what? God blessed me to do this thing, and I had a crazy work ethic. Crazy work ethic.
Yeah.
And I knew from a young age that because there's not a lot of money in this sport, I have to learn how to pinch every penny. I have to learn how to make every dime count. I need to learn how to win. I need to learn the mechanics. And just putting that extra effort in. The extra effort is what separated me from the field because I wasn't the fastest. I was always the runt. I was always super scrawny. I was in learning disabilities in school. So any of us out there that used to think they're just naturally gifted at that, let go of all that. Because a lot of times that thought's holding you back from playing full out, from going and achieving at 100%. We think this person's gifted, that's why they're the champion. Or this person's so lucky, that's why they have millions of dollars. It's not that at all. It's growing a little bit every single day and putting max effort in and not judging yourself along the way or comparing yourself to others.
Love that. So a question along that path a little bit is, because I don't know all the viewers if they understand this, but as a rodeo athlete, just a couple questions if you don't mind. You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but when you get there, do you still pay an entry fee?
Yeah, pay an entry fee to show up. You pay for all your fuel to get there. You pay for the horse. You pay for your saddle.
Okay.
Rodeo is a very cash intensive sport.
Yeah.
That's why it's hard to get into.
Okay.
Because number one, it's culturally.
Yeah.
But also it's financially expensive.
Okay. So another crazy question, not to cut you off, but I mean, so how many people? So like in a basketball game, we know how many we're playing against, or a football game, we have the numbers we're playing against. Do you always know the amount of people that you're competing against?
Not a chance. No.
Oh wow. Okay.
No. I mean, rodeos, depending on the size of the rodeo, the small local rodeo, maybe 30 to 50 people you're competing against. At a national size level, you're talking maybe 100 to 150, depending on the event.
So with that money being put in the pot, just so I'm clear on this, they pay all 50 people, right?
Not a chance. No.
Oh, what do you mean? So how does that work?
Yeah, so basically, depending on the money that's in the pot, only say 5 out of 50 will get a paycheck, or 4 out of 50. When you're talking 150 people in, maybe 8 out of 150 will get a paycheck. So you need to consistently be at the top.
Interesting. So now, just so we're clear, you pay for your fuel. You pay for your trailer.
Yep.
You're paying to haul your horse there.
Yep.
You're feeding your horse. Then you're taking, mentally, you have to do something to win or you don't make money. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a physical form of educated gambling. Except you have to pay more than just the money in the pot. So yeah, it's a cool thing. It's a fun thing. I love it. It's been good to me. But I will tell you, it's like the business world. 99% of people don't make it.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And you know, like you said, even at the very top, it's very easy to find yourself questioning why you're there. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it's getting better now.
Okay.
Now the athletes are literally making, millions of dollars. It's gotten way better. Sponsorships, endorsement deals.
Yeah.
There's several rodeos that pay $100,000 plus now. When I first started, there was no rodeos like that.
Yeah.
And so the last few years of my rodeo career, I financially was rewarded for what I put in 30 years prior.
Right.
So, it's a lot like starting a business. I mean, I've started a couple of businesses with my wife, who is brilliant and intelligent and amazing. But it takes a lot of years to get everything figured out. And then it seems like after 5 years of massive struggle, you find the breakthrough. But you're only going to find that breakthrough unless you stay hooked long enough, stay in the game long enough to figure it out and learn how to win.
That's awesome. Okay, cool. Sonny, go ahead.
Well, first I would just like to, I love the words you used of the what if I could do this, what if, because I think a lot of us shut ourselves down from the possibility.
Yeah.
And especially the older we get, I feel like, it's like I can't do that because I can't do that because, or like you said, they can do that because they have this and this. But just using the words "what if" opens that up to the possibility, and then you are so consistent in showing up and putting the work in. And I think that's entrepreneurship as well.
I think it's interesting. What if, there's two ways to take that. What if I get hurt? What
Oh,
if I
yeah.
lose my money?
Yeah.
What if this business deal doesn't work out? And you have to drown out that negative voice. And when
Yeah.
you hear a pop in your head say, no, get away from me, that's not for me. Let's flip it.
Yep.
What if I do a hell of a job at this business?
Yeah.
What if I change my family's trajectory for the next 50, 100 years? What if I'm the difference maker in my family line? And so you have to flip it. Another thing that I do mentally that I've done for performance, because I've competed thousands and thousands of times. And then as I transition into the public speaking side of things, it's really easy to go compete in a rodeo and compete for 8 or 10 seconds and be done. But when you're public speaking, you go on a stage full of, thousands of people, you got to perform for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh no. So another thing that I do that really helps me get my mind in the game is I turn a negative statement or a negative belief I have about myself and I turn it into a positive question. It's something I've done for many years. Tyson, you're not good enough. Well, how do I become good enough? Tyson, you're not fast enough. Well, how do I become faster? Tyson, you don't have enough money. Well, how do I create more income to chase the dreams that I want? And so that's something that I think a lot of people get stuck in, is that negative side of the what if, the negative statement that maybe somebody casted upon them when they were young or in their journey for greatness. And so those two things, just flipping it, reversing it, and turning it into my biggest superpower was something that helped me throughout my entire rodeo career and in my business, because I'm not, a seasoned business guy. Like, we're in the first 10 years of our entrepreneurial journey, and to be 100% honest, my wife runs our companies. So she's the real entrepreneur. I am newly retired as a professional athlete. Now I have to go prove it. Those negative voices come creeping back in. Because you can actually be the most confident guy in the world in sales, but if you've never ran a business or other people, you might be insecure in that. We might be confident in the way we look, but insecure in the way we feel. Sure. So there's all these different things that you have to navigate, and especially there's so many correlations between a pro athlete and an entrepreneur.
Yeah, good. So one of the parts of playing full out in all the things we do that I've watched you, and I'd love you to kind of just hit this, if you're okay if I ask another question.
Yeah, please.
Is as I've watched you now for several years in playing full out, what I call playing full out, a lot of your fans and a lot of people, when you're competing, still want your attention. How do you do that? Be present, at the same time clear the mechanism, walk in, compete at a high level, and or, I'm also going to throw one more thing in there as you're thinking about this, somebody else that's your competitor says, hey, Tyson, I need help. Yeah. Can you actually help me win tonight?
Well, it's actually...
How do you keep playing full out at that high level with all those things?
Well, one thing that I tell is, obviously we want to be present. Think about it in your example. You come home from a freaking hard day. Your kids want to play. They want dad. They want mom. They want you to be there, but you're thinking about the blow up at the office. You're thinking about the sale that you missed, and you needed that money, right? And in my end of the world, it's very much the same way. You just did terrible in the arena in front of 25,000 people or whatever the number is, and you ride out of the arena, and you're angry. You're upset. Yeah. Same thing, you coming home from the office, you're angry, upset. And then you see that little kid, that 10-year-old, right? You're his idol. Just like your kids are your idols, okay? I used to be selfish at this. I used to be so angry, I would say hi to the kid, I'd become polite, but then I'd leave. I wouldn't give him my attention. And a thought popped in my head. And it was, your worst day could be the greatest day of their life. And I learned how to shut that off immediately. That when I ride out, no matter how it goes, smiles. Hey buddy, how you doing? So nice to meet you. You want to take a photo? Tell me about your horse. It's the same way when you come home from a bad day at the office. You have to shut that off, because that bad day that you had at the office doesn't have to ruin the best day of your child's life. Yeah. And we get caught up in that. In the rodeo world, in the athletics world, in the business world, and the marketing world, like, it's so easy to carry that stuff with you. But you know what? Your kids don't need to know about the blow up at the office. They need your full potential. They need your full attention. And I learned that, it took me a couple of times in my early 20s. I figured that out, how much what I said and what I did meant to these kids. Yeah. And now as a father, how much it means to my children.
Yeah. For sure.
And I think that's something that we all have to learn. Unfortunately, you have to learn it the hard way sometimes. Yeah. But maybe somebody out there can listen to this and say, you know what? There's something that I can do right here, right now to shift and make a change. And if I can give you one tip for anybody listening, I use physical things to reset. So when I come home and I hear that door shut on my truck, that's a reset for me. I attach my mind to the slam of the door, the shut of the door walking into the house as a reset, and it's like, boom, I'm done. For me, shutting the gate on the arena was one thing. When I rode out and the gate man shut the gate on the arena, I'm like, okay, it's in the arena. It's not going to follow me out. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Let's take a photo. Tell me about your work, whatever the thing is. Yeah. And sometimes you can use those physical representations as mental triggers to move into the next phase.
So good.
Yeah. So good. Okay, were there any pivotal moments early on where you had to challenge yourself or your beliefs to go to the next level?
Oh, man, there were so many things that happened to me. I don't think we have enough time in this podcast to tell you everything. But I will tell you one thing. In 2006, I had already lost my life savings once rodeoing in 2003. Okay, I lost everything in 2003. Basically, went flat broke. Started a welding business. Was a welder, and built that business for 2 years. Then I sold it to my partner. My dream was to rodeo and be, the greatest calf roper on planet Earth. I then go chase my dream again, and guess what? I lose all the money I sold the business for. But at this time, I'm 21, and I had discovered credit cards and credit lines at banks. And I maxed all of those out too. And I'm at a rodeo in Alberta, outside of America, with $200 to my name, credit cards maxed out, credit lines maxed out. I don't even have enough money to get home on. And I'm sleeping in the backseat of my truck. I remember going to sleep that night, and I was just like, is this ever going to work for me? Like, is this something that is ever going to work for me? Is my dream just so wild that, I'm just chasing my tail like a dog? Like, is this ever going to work? Because at this point, second time I've done this. And I'm just too stubborn to quit. And so I pick up the phone, and I call my father, whom we had a very rocky relationship, but he was a great trainer, like I said. Yeah. I said, Dad, what do you think I need to do? He's like, you need to focus on the basics, son. You need to clear your mind and go row. Okay. I'm like, okay. Dad, thanks for the help. I know that.
All right.
But I'm going to listen and be respectful.
Yeah.
So then I call my mentor. Mm-hmm. Fred Brown says, who was my mentor at the time, he just chuckles. He's like, heck, you're 21 years old. You'll figure it out. It's not that big a deal. It seems like a huge deal right now in your life, but in 10 years, you're going to look back. You're going to be a champion. It's not going to be that big a deal. And he just totally changed my mindset. I was literally crying in the backseat of my vehicle, right? I don't even have a home. Like, I don't have a place to live. I don't have a mailing address. I'm riding a borrowed horse. I borrowed the trailer from Fred Brown to get to Canada. I don't have enough money to get back to America on, and my back's against the wall. Yeah. And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, you really don't find out who you truly are until your back is against the wall like that, and you're forced to perform at another level that you didn't know you had, and when you break through, you get a massive amount of confidence from it. The next day, I went and competed at that rodeo. I ended up second place, $4,500, cha-ching, in my pocket. I won money at 19 out of the next 20 rodeos.
Wow.
That is unheard of.
Yeah.
The best in the world win money 50% of the time. Yeah. And I was at a 95% win percentage. Went to the national finals that year. First American to ever win a Canadian national championship in history. And the sky's the limit. It just kept going up and up and up. Now, without my mentor that night, without that person that coached me, that mentor that believed in me, I probably cry myself to sleep. I'm so nervous the next morning. I don't perform, and my life looks totally different right now.
Wow.
So crazy question for you, just because I'm curious at this point. What made you pick up the phone?
Because I knew I couldn't do it on my own. I had tried. I had already tried that, and it didn't work. And, you want to know the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I had always looked at myself and said, you know, what can I do to make me better? Like, how can I grow? How can I shift? How can I be better? And I knew that I tried that and it didn't work. And it wasn't like I kind of tried. Like, I tried max potential.
Yeah.
It didn't work. So that's why I found that.
Okay, so I'm going to back up then.
Go ahead.
Because I want to dig here just a little tiny bit. And it might be too much, but how many other rodeos did you go to before that point? I'm not saying the exact number, but that you didn't pick up the phone.
Well, here's the thing. I had started with that mentor 12 rodeos earlier.
Okay.
So I had been to 12 rodeos in a row and didn't win anything.
Okay.
Still picking up the phone, still calling, still doing that, but still going through hell.
Gotcha.
But I think what most people do is they don't give that enough time to blossom and to grow. They don't let those seeds become fertile plants.
Yeah.
They make a change and say, oh, this didn't work, I tried that.
Yeah.
And so for me, you know, I was like almost a year into it before I seen that massive shift.
Yeah.
And when it came like a light switch.
Yeah.
And I went to crushing and winning and got massive confidence. But I laid all the groundwork first.
Yeah.
And I think that's something even to this day, I don't like asking for help.
Right.
As a male, as an entrepreneur, you're supposed to be the guy that everybody comes to. You know all the answers. But in all actuality, if somebody's been there ahead of me and done it ahead of me and knows how to handle that, and I can time collapse my chaos, I'm going to go do it.
So good. So I'm just going to recap. So if my understanding is correctly, is you were working with a mentor. You were calling them before rodeos.
Yeah.
Probably not the same conversation, I'm assuming, every single time.
No.
There were different things, but there were different concerns for you.
Yeah.
But the night that the concern rose to a level of, this is it.
Yeah, yeah.
That mentor's conversation affected you differently.
Yeah, it helped me big time because I'm very much a apex predator type of person. Like I didn't go into like my total child, but it was complete chaos, man. Like for me, it was life or death.
Yeah.
And I just simplified it in my head and said, if I get the best help that I can get, and I back myself in the corner and say, I'm trying to say this the right way because I don't want to scare your audience.
Yeah, that's good.
If I say,
you can say anything you want.
I'm going to do this or I'm going to die, then I'll figure out a way to do it. Sometimes when you burn the ships and burn the bridges, it's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
You don't want the safety net. The safety net's,
that's playing full out right there.
Yeah, it's not a good thing.
That's what I'm trying to get at. This is when you play full out right now.
For me, I burn the ships. I literally had it in my head that I was going to make it or I was going to die.
Yeah, so good.
And it's probably not healthy, and I don't recommend that for anybody else, but the way that I grew up and the way that I came up and the things that I seen, I don't want to call it normal, but that's the extent that I was willing to get out of this situation I was in.
So good. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you being, like I think when we talk about we playing full out, it's different for every person, and that's why I love this conversation because there's so many people that talk and then there's other people that do, and actions, in my opinion, speak louder than words every single day. And so I just love it when we start to dig into people and their true being and who they are and what playing full out means to them. So I think the next thing we're transitioning, if you're good, you good for a second if I ask one of them? So I think the next thing we're transitioning to family and marriage, correct?
I don't know if those years are right.
They're not. That's why I was going to take this one. I caught that on the paper. I was going to say Sunny, so she didn't, but she already catching herself here. So I'll let you take it. They're not. It's 11.
Okay, well, I was going to ask how long you've been married
for. There you
go.
Good.
I was just kind of guessing.
Good. Perfect.
So you've been married for 11 years.
Yeah, been married 11 years, together 13 years. It's been a fun journey.
So what does it mean to you to play full out in your marriage, especially with the challenge of a high-profile career, and also you're on the road a lot.
Yeah.
And being married to a high-profile wife,
and also,
really.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm kind of a get it done. Like I like to, in my mind, I really don't say this out loud because it doesn't sound right, but I'm an apex predator.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wasn't always that way. I was the runt, scrawny kid that couldn't win anything, but I developed something what I called lock-in words and things that help me develop into my persona that allow me to go.
Yeah.
Well, my wife's equally that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, so we're both type A, you know, want to take control and do things. And we've been together, married 11 years, together 13. I went to a whole nother level when I met my wife. I wouldn't be a world champion without her. She is, you know, I'm kind of like that knuckle dragging, you know, lug that married way above his pay grade. She's awesome. She's beautiful. We had 3 beautiful kids.
Yeah.
So thankful for them. But she actually, sounds cliche, but she actually like completed me because I always wanted a steady relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never seen it from a family life. You know, all I'd known was, you know, strife and fighting and all the craziness. But I wanted somebody that was consistent. And my wife brought that consistency to me.
Cool.
She brought security to me in the aspect of, I got you no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm your ride or die.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even if you're not, you know, she married me on my worst year in professional sports. I didn't even qualify for what we, like our Super Bowl, which for me was I qualified for the National Finals Rodeo every single year, my entire rodeo career. But the year that I didn't, she wanted to get in. She wanted to get into the boat that had holes and leaks in it. So she gave me that security. And then she pushed me, say, you know, yeah, you're practicing today, but what are you doing to work on your mind? What are you doing today to work on your strength and your flexibility and all these other things that I wasn't really working at or thinking of? And she pushed me to another level. Plus, she taught me media training. Her coming from the music industry, she taught me, you know, this is how you address people. This is how you talk to a camera. This is how you go out and get, you know, 6 figures in sponsors to get going down the road.
Wow.
And so she really brought I was a winner and I was a champion, but she brought me to the next level.
That is awesome.
That's really cool. So, Sonny, in a previous podcast or in a conversation, I can't remember which, there was something that you talked about as, you know, males, and if a lion walked in the room, what would you be? Would you expand upon that a little bit?
Well, let me think about it for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Trying to think the premise of it.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the ways of being a fully authentic, fully present person is your like body language, and I think there was a different term for it.
Yeah.
And the premise is like if you were in an audience and a lion walked out onto the stage, you would not have the ability to look away from it. It's not that you couldn't. You'd be so terrified you would not have the ability. You wouldn't be looking at your phone. You wouldn't be breathing hardly. You know, you wouldn't be like wondering what you're going to have for dinner after the conference is over.
Right.
You're going to be like fully
So you're
present
talking about the first time I see my wife,
that
right?
Right? Exactly. There's a lot of truth to that, though. But keep going.
But that's like authenticity is that magnetism that draws you to that. But part of that is how you move, and you move as a predator.
Yeah. So the reason I wanted her to bring this up right here, and she did so great. Thank you, Sonny, for doing that. Is this is how Tyson's wife played full out in his life? Is she showed him how to be the lion and be so present and focused that he could play full out in their marriage, and if I'm gathering this rightly, and in your media and in your career of being a lion, to when you stood out there and you were ready to rope, you mesmerized people, even down to wearing a pink shirt.
Yeah, it's interesting because when my wife and I got married, you know, I'd been close to championships and I'd lost. You know, I've been in the running in the last moments of our Super Bowl National Finals Rodeo to be a world champion 5 times. I did it once. Okay. But what my wife did for me, we put "I will be a world champion" on the mirror in the rearview mirror of my truck. We put it on the fridge. We put it in the bathroom. She would walk by and say, "What are you?" And I'd be like, "I'm a world champion." She's like, "That's not what are you?" And she would make me say it over and over and over and over again. And think about, you know, your own personal life. Like, I am a millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
I am a successful leader.
Mm-hmm.
I can change my family's line. I can do these things. Like, sometimes, you know, we just have to say it enough times to where we believe it. Just like 0.5%. But then we get a little bit of result of that, and it gets you like I did a great job with that person today. Oh, I did a great job. And then it's like 1% more. And then the next day later, it's like, yeah, I do have this. I am a leader. I can lead these people. I can do this. I can win. I can sell. I can be an entrepreneur. Yeah. And then you just get a little bit more success, just a tiny bit, and you're just a little bit further.
Love that.
And for me, it was my wife that brought that out in me. Yeah. Now she, on the other hand, has had her own success.
Yeah.
Right. She's done her stuff, and I've helped push her, and I'm her biggest cheerleader, and
right.
and she's reignited her passion for music and performing, and all this stuff, and it's really fun. But I will tell you, our biggest hurdle as a couple is making sure that we do date night, making sure that we spend time together. Sometimes it's as simple as going in outside the back of our house, drinking a cup of tea and talking. So cool. Sometimes it's a fire down the woods behind our house. Sometimes we'll go to town and watch a movie, but taking that freaking time and realizing that, we're not just ships passing each other in the night, because that's what entrepreneur couples do a lot of times, especially if you work, together, is you just pass each other. It's like, where is the passion? Where is the fire? Where is the love? Where's the connection? And like, we implemented this probably a year ago, where we really were like spending time and going to dinner, and then after dinner we'll go to a coffee shop and sit and talk for 2 or 3 hours, and that has done wonders for our relationship, because we both got so entrenched in the business and in the rodeo and all that stuff that we forgot that we were actually in love with each other.
So good.
And that to us has been such a great thing, and I didn't understand it until we did it, and I was like, man, what have we been missing like the last few years, So good.
Yeah, so if you guys, you can go back and review our past podcasts, but Sonny and I have talked about this before a lot. We take at the beginning of the year and we schedule out our entire year of dates, and we buy our time, which means if we're going to go to Disney World in next year in, let's say, July, we buy the tickets.
Yeah.
We don't just wait. We buy them. We literally buy our airplane tickets. We buy the tickets. We buy our time, and we mark it all out so that we know what we're doing with our entire family. There's no question that time is already bought and blocked out. You also know in past podcasts is we have a date night that is locked in every single month. They are themed. We are very creative in them, but we book them out. We plan them out. She's either in charge one month, I'm in charge the next month, and they're a total blast. So go re-listen to that. Because what Tyson's talking about here, in my opinion, is one of the biggest things you can do to play full out in your marriage.
Yeah, here's the one thing that I would say to that, and it's very simple, is I schedule my business around my family, not my family around my business. And in doing that, I show who the priority is.
That's right.
If on a Saturday I miss basketball game, soccer game, volleyball game, if I miss that, I'm out working. What am I telling my kids? What am I telling my spouse? What am I telling these people? I'm telling them that you are second. You're not as important as that sales call. Okay? And it's not about missing it here or there, but if that's consistent behavior, why do you think your child, when they grow up to be 17, 18, 19, don't want to spend that time with you, don't want to hang out with you, don't want to do things with you? And I was blessed enough to see a lot of other people do this and say, I'm going to do things differently than that. So what if I make 100,000 less? Doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is, yes, making enough money to live my dream, but more importantly, raising a badass family that I know I haven't let any of my generational curses flow to them.
Cool. So good.
I love all of that. One thing I wanted to kind of hone in on was, well, first of all, I love that you both challenge each other to be successful, right? Because I think a lot of times, I don't know, sometimes couples might be fearful of that. Like if I push Bart to his full capacity or whatever, does that take away from me? Does that put him out there? Does that put more people around him and me farther away? There's like a lot of maybe fear that could come up with that. I think it's really, really epic that you guys are able to do that for each other. And then also hearing you say like, I'm going to be a world champion, and then you get a little result, so you get a little more confidence, and then you get a little more result. And I think so many times as just humans in general, entrepreneurs for sure, we think we need to have confidence before we do
Never do that,
But it doesn't work that way. It's like you just got to jump in, and as the results come, the confidence comes, right?
Yeah. That's spot on, and it's going to be hard. Like, it's going to be hard.
Just expect it, and then it will be a surprise.
Yeah, and I'll give you guys a firm example of that. when I retired Rodeo, and I just kind of assumed, we never really had this conversation, that I was just going to jump into the businesses we already had rolling, and I was going to, help out with our clothing company or our belt buckle company. And my wife had been, I had been helping promote, essentially, because I'm in, papers and I'm doing TV all the time. And when I would call people, they would answer because it was kind of cool for them to talk to me, and they had no idea why I was calling, and I could sell them certain things. So, but on day-to-day operation, my wife handled everything. So I would say like 95% of the business was her doing everything. And when I stepped away, I assumed that I was just going to jump in, like, let's grow these businesses. My wife said, no, I don't want you in these businesses. You have to do something different than this, because what you're going to do is going to be way bigger and way greater than this stuff. And I was so upset. I was, because I've been a part of this for 15 years. We've been doing this thing. And yes, I wasn't the one, but and so I had to take that. And sometimes what you need to hear is not what you want to hear.
Amen to that.
And I was angry, and I was resentful, and I needed time. And now on the flip side of that, I know what I'm going to do. I know where I want to go. I know that I'm going to achieve bigger and better and greater things. And we're going to have more businesses and more companies. But sometimes what you want to hear and what you need to hear are two separate things. And if you have somebody that truly, that they love you, and they tell you something hard, you need to accept that as they're actually saying this for me, not to me.
Yeah.
And it's going to work out even much better than I thought. But it was definitely hard to swallow. It was hard to hear.
That's beautiful. Yes, I've had those talks with Bart where it's not what I want to hear, but it's what I need to hear. And it takes me a few days, and then I come back, I'm like, okay, right.
Yeah.
But I appreciate him being willing to step up and say things that I need to hear. Right.
Yeah, it goes both ways.
Okay, we kind of talked about a ritual and routine that you have with your wife to stay close and grounded amidst all the chaos. Do you guys do anything with your kids, like a ritual or routine to kind of stay grounded and together as a family?
Well, we do everything together.
Yeah.
Like, literally there's no Tyson, you're going to go spend the weekend with this kid or this. We do everything together. When one has a basketball, the only time we don't is if we have two games or two things on at the exact same time.
Yeah.
And when I mean everything together, like when we go on vacations, it's me, my wife, the three kids, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, sometimes my mom. Like on the ranch that we live on, it's literally like the Brady Bunch. It's all of us. My mom lives on the ranch. My mother-in-law and father-in-law live on the ranch. We got hired men on the ranch. We got a retired firefighter that lives on the ranch as well. We have 12 employees that come out every day. So it's like everything is done together. There's very little, that's mine, in our lives. Because nothing is mine. Everything is ours. And I think that helps with the kids.
Yeah.
Like, they're not allowed to say, that's mine. They have the toy, and they have the thing, and they'll say that. But we correct them. Hey, Rizzy can play with your toy. Or maybe while she's playing with your favorite toy, you can go into her room and grab her favorite toy. And then it all works out. And sometimes it doesn't go right, but we just do everything together. And one thing that we do as a family that I had to learn to get over, because I came from a broken family, was that if you say something harsh or it gets heated, you don't have to spend 10 years before you talk to that person again. Because in my family, it's like when you got mad at each other, it was like 10 years before you talked to each other. Like you hold on to it, And my wife's side, they will be like mad at each other, and then literally 7 minutes later, it's like they're good again. And I'm like, and when I met my wife, I was like, what the hell's wrong with your family? But we have learned how to get over things very quickly. And that really helps,
Yeah.
We all know about the things that we hold on to that create insecurities, that create resentment and anger. It never feels good. So just drop it. Let go. If you get mad at a family member, let it go. Forgive them. Yeah. In the Bible, it talks about how many times you forgive is 7 times 77. Like, just forgive. Yeah. And, in other areas of life, you can forgive. You don't have to forget. You don't have to trust again, but you can always forgive.
Yeah. So
Anything else you'd like to add there?
Perfect.
Okay. I'm trying to think where I want to go from here. So a few years ago, I would say, how long were you? anyway, you got interested in the digital marketing space.
I have been, yeah.
And you launched a membership site
I did.
and all the things. What inspired you to transition? Kind of. I mean, you were still rodeoing at the time, but what inspired you to build your online membership platform?
I don't know. I'd starting listening to YouTube. Like I really got on YouTube probably like 2018, and I started like using it and stuff. And before that I was like, I'm not gonna waste my time listening on social media. Who's gonna do that? I'm like, I'm 40, y'all, and I'm a cowboy, so I'm like late to the project. And I was watching Gary Vee. He was really standing out to me a lot of the time. And Gary Vee was like, and I was thinking to myself while he was saying, I'm like, how am I gonna, get out to the world? How am I gonna do that? And Gary Vee is ranting on stage, and he looks at the camera, and he points, and he says, "It's the internet, dick," like that. Like, sorry, I'm a Christian who also cusses a little bit, so whatever. And it just popped in my head. I was like, what if I could take everything I know about rodeo and put it online? And that's when I reached out to you. Yeah. All right, no, that's not right. I put a story out on my thing, and then you responded to it, and that's how we got to be friends. But that's initially what started it. And I can also tell you, like, this digital media thing, there will be people that tell you it's easy. It is not easy. Yeah. I think it would be easier to start a different business than this. But, if you believe in your thing and your product and you're helping, you're serving, you almost feel compelled to do it even more so than let's just make a bunch of money. Yeah. And to this day, like for my roping thing, I was looking yesterday with you. I've had like 1,600 people through my roping mentorship. So cool. And it's a low ticket offer, but I've been able to bless that many people and help that many people. Yeah. And the reason I know that most of them are happy is because on Stripe, I have like 0.0001 dispute rate, so they're actually happy.
That's so cool. So cool.
But it's been fun. It's been an up and down battle, and I've had my love-hate relationship with it over the years. But all in all, it's been phenomenal. I have one young lady. Her name's Renee. That's in my mentorship program, and she's a perfect student. She is not gifted as a rodeo athlete. She didn't grow up on a horse. This girl was falling off, getting hurt. A lot of things were happening to her. And over a couple-year period of just being diligent, just getting a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better every day, she's like crushing it and winning championships and winning belt buckles and winning. Wow. And this is from a girl that you would say that I was like, no, they're never going to be able to do it. But because she was diligent and stayed hooked, she's like getting rewards like no other. And like if I can, over the 1,600 people in my mentorship program, I'm most proud of her.
That's so cool. Great story. It's a real good story. We play and full out.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So I was just thinking how you said entrepreneurship is hard. Building digital marketing businesses are hard. And, in our I Do Epic groups, Bart really hones in on people's why. Yeah, what's their purpose? Because it is so hard that unless you have that deep purpose, like you have big purpose to be a world champion, you have Renee now. Who's like pulling you and going, okay, this is why I do what I do. You're willing to go through the hard if you have a big enough purpose, I think, and a calling. Yeah.
You got to clearly define your why. And one thing I had to learn is that it's okay if your why changes.
Amen. Yeah.
Because as we grow as human beings, so sometimes the people we serve will change.
Yep.
Sometimes your why will change. Pre-kids is different than post-kids. Yep. Pre-marriage is different than post-marriage. So it's okay if your why shifts and changes. But if your passion is just making money, you need to rethink about how you do things, because it's great, but after you make, probably for me, I'm pretty simple, but after you make, $250,000 to $300,000 net profit a year, I have everything I want. Yeah. I'm not a Lamborghini, helicopter, private jet kind of guy. Yeah. But, I now am most fueled by like, how can I help a homeless person? How can I rescue this child from a situation? Yeah. And so that, to me, is my new why. Awesome. How can I create as much capital as possible so that I can help generationally change and help these people? And when I was 20, it was about make me a world champion, baby. Give me all the stuff. And so it's okay if it shifts and changes.
It is. It is important to have one. I know, people who are successful have that pulling them as like their future self pulling them to that purpose. And when
Mhm.
people don't have purpose at all, that's when you stay stagnant.
Yeah, and you
And
fall
get
into
in
drugs
routines
or
and
alcohol
you
or
like
depression.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you've kind of shifted into a lot more of the business world.
Yeah.
Do you have a different mindset you bring to setting goals there versus what you did in your rodeo career?
Well, I think one major thing for me is to start at the beginning and be humble. I know that's not like super amazing and flamboyant, but because of my status in one thing, I could like be like, I don't want to go. I don't want to start at the beginning and learn how to build a landing page. I don't want to start at the beginning. I gotta just pay somebody else to do that. But over the last 5 years, I've been in the digital world. Like, I built my first funnel. It really sucked. And then I talked Sonny into building a better one for me. But like I went through all the steps. I could have easily skipped by and said I'm not doing it.
Right.
I go through every single step. And as a business person, like, I'll do sales, I'll do management, I'll do accounting and bookkeeping, even though I freaking hate it. Like, I don't even like being in front of a computer screen. It drives me crazy. I'd rather be outside doing something.
Yeah.
But I force myself to go through all of it, at least to grasp the knowledge of it, not to become an expert. I know I'm not going to do it forever, but I want to grasp the knowledge of it. That way I can lead the people to do it. And if you're a small entrepreneur, in my opinion, you can't do everything in your business, at least a little bit, then you're missing out. I think you should really have to start back at the base and learn everything through, at least somewhat. You don't have to be an expert.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
Yeah.
So that you, number one, can value the people that work for you.
There you go.
And number two, you know how much time a certain project should take,
Yeah.
right? And you can just make better and more educated decisions.
That is awesome. You know what you'd like to add?
Nope.
Okay, so I know you're big into mental toughness, mental resiliency. Do you have any personal philosophies or practices that keep you resilient and ready to give 100% no matter what the challenge is?
Yeah,
I'm sure that could be a whole podcast. But
yeah, it could be a whole podcast. But to be honest with you, all the people you see that are balling out that are awesome are only that way because they really sucked at that thing before. I want to be so mentally strong because I was so mentally weak. I want to be a leader because it scared the hell out of me to go stand on stage and stand in front of people. And so to be mentally tough, you have to do things that you don't want to do. Take David Goggins. And we all might know who David Goggins is, but if you don't, he's got an incredible story. He's a very inspirational military guy, a SEAL, blah, 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 all the stuff. But he weighed 300 pounds and he sprayed for roaches. That was his job.
Yeah.
And now he's probably 180, lean, jack, badass. And I'm like, how is that even possible? He's that mentally tough, and it's that possible because he chased what scared him to death. It scared him to death to go get in shape. It scared him to death to lose 100 and some pounds. It scared him to death to do all that stuff. So he chased it. He became mentally tough and mentally resilient. If you're a person that's always chasing easy, oh boy, life's going to be so hard for you. But if you're not afraid to tackle big things and go after it and struggle a little bit, actually life seems easier to you. You got to get up and you got to do this thing. Well, it's not that big a deal, And I think for me, mental is near and dear to my heart because I have a lot of family members that struggle with mental health. Okay. And I was not mentally strong. I did not believe in myself. I was never the fastest. I was never the coolest. All through, like middle school, I had no front teeth, got knocked out. On one tooth was knocked out several times, actually. I had red hair with a mullet and freckles. How freaking mentally tough do you think I was? Right? I wasn't cool. I was made fun of. I was dirty Durfey. I took one bath a week. I didn't brush my teeth. I didn't comb my hair. Like, this was, it wasn't easy for me. But I learned, like, I can change that. Yeah, it's going to be hard, but who cares? A little bit of hard for a great reward on the end is so much better than easy now and terrible for the rest of your freaking life. If I hadn't chose hard in the beginning, do you think I win world championships? No. Do you think I become a multimillionaire? No. Not that's a big deal or anything.
Right. Do
you think I have an amazing family, an amazing wife, and tons of land and a ranch? No, I don't have any of that stuff. Not that that's everything, but man, it's sure nice.
Yeah.
And if you were to say, I just got to go through a couple of years of really struggling to achieve something, a massive, a dream or an achievement, then just do it. I'm begging you. Don't quit. Don't give up. Keep moving forward. At all costs, keep moving forward because if you just have the attitude of I will not stop, you will become successful in something.
Kind of reminds me of the election. Just saying. That's all
And,
I'll say about
and
it.
honestly, that's one thing I'll give Trump.
Yeah.
You
I
may
will
not like him.
Stop.
I will not stop. That
Yeah.
man just will not quit. And I respect that.
Oh,
I respect. I like him anyway, but I respect that.
I do too. Okay, so in a world where there's so much pressure to be a certain way, what does authenticity mean to you? And how do you keep showing up as your true self?
Yeah, I mean, the truth to that for me is I just don't give a damn what people think.
Yeah.
You know,
Not
it's hard to
always easy,
do.
though.
I mean, I care about my mama and I care about my dad. Like, I do care what they think, but the rest of the world, they can go fly a kite. And I will be honest, the sooner that you live your true self, the more people will follow you. I was the cowboy in pink for almost 2 decades, right? I wore a bright pink shirt every time I went to rope and compete. And there'd people be making fun of me like, oh, that's gay or that's whatever, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I don't give a damn. I'm doing this for my stepmother, you know, and she has 2 great fruit-sized tumors on her ovary, so you can go kiss my ass. I don't give a damn what you say.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go win tonight because I'm going to donate to charity tomorrow. And one thing that I really helped me achieve was that, number one, I didn't care what people thought. Okay?
Yeah.
And I would just get angry. Those kids that made fun of me, I'm like, I'm going to show you son of bitches.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Excuse my language again. I'm a Christian, but I cuss a little bit. Because I'm a real human, right? Yeah. I would get so, and I would never say it out loud, but in my mind, I'm like, oh, they're going to regret the day that they said that about me. They're going to regret the day they said I would never make it. They're going to, and so I would do that. I would use that as fuel and motivation. But I didn't care what they thought. Okay? Because they didn't pay my bills.
Yeah.
Why do I care about somebody who doesn't even pay my bills? Why do I care about Fancy Pants 27 on Instagram?
Yeah.
You know, they had 5 great comments and 1 that's negative. Like, who cares? You're not even a real person anyway. You're probably some damn bot. You know? Like, so who cares about that? And then the second thing was that I was Irish, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm Irish. I don't quit. And I think that authenticity leads people to you. It's like a lot of people in the beginning with Trump. If you think back in 2016, everybody laughed at him.
Yeah.
Everybody laughed at him. Trump, all the news stations. Obama razzed him big time at that one dinner. There was a lot. But now, look how many people follow him. Did he change? He didn't change.
Nope.
He stayed himself.
Yeah.
People are attracted to people who live who they truly are and don't care what anybody thinks. And the person that's this person one day, and then they're like, oh, I'm going to try a new look, and I'm going to try to do something new. And that just doesn't work. It does not work because people can sniff it. Even if they don't say it out loud, they can sense it. And it never works over the long haul. I could go on about that one for another 25, 30 minutes.
So good. And we can both attest, like, just how genuine and authentic of a person you are. No matter where you're an amazing human. So,
thank you.
What's one key lesson you share with young athletes and entrepreneurs about showing up fully in their pursuits? Is there any one key lesson that just comes to your mind?
Yeah, I mean, going back to my childhood, it was like life or death, right? For me. That's the way I looked at things. You grow up on a farm, animals die. You have to put animals down. You have to, it's just part of the life. And you learn very quick that it's like life is so precious and it's so valuable, yet it's so fragile. You could have a horse or an animal that you've had forever and you take them for granted. You could have a human being that you take for granted. Tomorrow they may not be here. Yeah. And one thing that helped me stay so hungry and so competitive was that knowing that there could be scarcity in the thing that I want. Tyson, tomorrow you may not be able to do this. You might, I hate saying this, but what if you died tonight and you didn't put in the effort today and you could have won that championship? More above and beyond that, what if you don't perform today and you can't afford to buy your children lunch tomorrow? Yeah. So I always found external things to make me perform at a higher level. What if I'm not here tomorrow? And this is the last day that I'll ever get to say, hi, I love you to my wife. What if this is the last time I'll ever be able to ride a horse through a pasture chasing that calf? What if this is the last soccer game that I'll ever get to attend of my child, even though I was up all night because they were screaming and crying, I'm hungry, I'm sick, diaper change, wet the bed, all the stuff that we go through every single day,
Yeah.
and I'm exhausted, and I didn't get any rest. What if this is the last soccer game I ever get to go to? How am I going to approach that? And then sometimes I'll go get by myself, and I'll be like, what if this is it? How am I going to perform? What am I going to do? And it always kept my fire just rocking. And there were days that it wasn't as good as others, but I promise you, if you tie your performance to something bigger than yourself, you will perform at a much higher level.
Okay, I think
Ready to kind of wrap it up a
we're
little
going to
bit?
wrap it up. What a great example of playing
Yeah.
full out in life,
Yeah.
in all areas of
Yeah.
life. It's been an amazing talking to you tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
So, so to wrap it up a little bit, I'm going to just tell a little story because as we've talked about in the podcast, there's a lot of stories. So I'll never forget the reason I was following Tyson was because as a young man, I wanted to be Tyson. Like I really did want to be a professional calf roper, and size was not on my side. I'm not the size I am, and still didn't work out for me. But I was following Tyson because I loved his journey and I loved the kind of person that he was. Now I didn't know him. I was watching him through, just like maybe you are today, through a camera. But when the opportunity presented itself, we got to be friends. And in that, I kind of want to wrap the whole segment up about Tyson and this is I'll never forget the opportunity I had of one night Tyson was going to a rodeo in Heber City, Utah. And this was during the COVID season. And he was chasing really, really hard. And he said he was really tired. And so I jumped in with Tyson and went to this rodeo. And it was early morning that Tyson had to be there. He'd been up all night. And we got to that rodeo. And if you've been around the rodeo world for very long, you'll find that it is a family and you've got to help each other out. And we got there, he got up, started warming his horse up, and there was a lot of guys there and there was a lot of performance happening that day. And I'll never forget sitting there, and there was I don't know if he was a rookie or a young calf roper at that time, but he came up to Tyson and he said, Tyson, can you push my calf for me? And Tyson said, sure, I'll be glad to. And here you got a man that has been at the top of his game, and yet he's willing to get off of his horse with his clean shirt on, clean pants, jump in a chute, get behind a calf to help somebody beat him. It's so inspirational to see when you put others above yourself. And when he got out of there, I don't know who asked him, but I know there was somebody there, said, why in the world would you do that? And he said, because I'm going to win at the best. And I want to beat people, not at their worst or when they're sick, but at their very best. And at that rodeo, there was a kid that went out and roped and actually threw his slack. And he was flagged out, had the fastest time, was going to win it all. And I saw probably 30 cowboys at the time contest to the judge and say, no, we believe it was a good run. Now think about this. You got 30 guys that their paycheck is going to be lost if this is overruled. But they stood up for what was right. People came out of the stands, Joe Beaver being one of them. If you don't know who he is, you can go look him up. Contesting this. Now the judge stood with what he decided, and nobody argued with the judge after that. When he made his stand, he made his stand. But the most impressive thing was how this whole group of men stood up for what was right. This whole group of men was there helping each other compete against each other so that they could be their best. So in business, and when you play full out, part of playing full out is helping others, just like Tyson said. Play full out in their life. Help them accomplish their dreams. Therefore, he's created his mentorship. In his marriage, he stood up, played full out with his wife, set out goals, set out dreams, but at the same time was using her to help him play full out in his life. So if you're out there as an entrepreneur today and you have a competitor that reaches out to you and asks for a favor, don't be afraid to jump in and push their calf and push yourself to a limit you've never pushed yourself to. so that you can win at your top level and they can win at theirs. And that was a really cool moment for me in my life, and to really see the true character of Tyson. And I watched him that day as he was absolutely exhausted get off his horse, young kids all over the place, and a lot of adults that just wanted that moment in time to have the best day of their life because they got to meet a world champion that they'd always dreamed of meeting. And during those times, they were tough times at COVID. And these cowboys were pushing really hard, and they were going to every rodeo to make things happen because a lot of the big rodeos didn't happen that year. So it was really cool to watch all of them and how they interacted with different people. So there's a lot of lessons to take from here. And Sonny and I are so grateful to have Tyson in our life. We're so grateful that one phone call, I can call him up and Tyson will be there for my wife or for me or for my kids. And I know he feels the same about us. And I'm so grateful to have him here. So I hope you really do play full out in life. I hope you got a lot of nuggets from this. And I hope that you'll listen to this multiple times and share it with other people, because if you don't share it, obviously the message doesn't get spread and people don't see this. So I'm asking you to do that for us. And just if you have questions, comments, let us know about that. We'd love to have your input.
So you can find Tyson on Instagram?
Yeah.
Anywhere. Yeah. Tyson Durfey.
Go look him up.
Yeah.
Go see the pink shirt. You'll find him all over the place. And once again, we want to thank you for being here and doing that. And we'll wrap this up. This segment's sponsored by I Do Epic. Let's go.